Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, Bill.
How are you today?
I'm all right.
Well, this is a good thing.
How about you?
I'm good.
You.
I'm good. Episode 140.
140, that's a nice round number.
Yeah. Stay away from inconvenienced income.
Inconvenienced. Okay.
Imagine this. You could analyze a property using the fewest numbers as possible and get the most profit. Then buy it, sell it, and increase your bank account easily. What would this do to your inconvenienced income or job that you are currently struggling with?
So you're calling a job your inconvenienced income?
Yeah, isn't that true?
So you're being inconvenienced.
Totally.
Okay.
Well, it's somebody else's intention, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else is telling you what to do, right?
And when to do it.
And how to
where
do it.
to be.
Yeah.
And how.
So isn't that an inconvenience of what you really want?
It truly is.
Okay, good.
Okay, now I understand. Just want to get it straight.
Wouldn't it make sense having a quick and effective way to determine whether you should take the next step on any deal would change your current status of income? Did you get it?
Say it again.
Yep. Wouldn't it make sense having a quick and efficient way to determine whether you should take the next step on any deal would change your current status of income?
Yeah.
It's important you find motivated sellers. We agree on that, right?
No doubt.
But it's more important you figure out quickly it's a deal or not and don't waste valuable time and resources. Sellers, this is interesting. Now, these are very well-crafted words for you, Peter.
You thought about these?
I did. Sellers fantasize about their huge profits and don't really judge whether the buyer could actually close with such a high selling price most often. In this podcast, you will learn how to weed through these overzealous sellers and find the one or two deals you can do so your bank balance fattens quickly.
I heard fattens.
Fattens?
I heard fattens.
Yeah.
The quickly wasn't even that important. Fattens.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I really had trouble with that one because I write in pencil and I erased it because it's handwritten. I don't do this on my computer. I do this just straight right from my thoughts to the paper.
Yep.
But I wrote it two ways. So let me give you the second version. Okay?
Alternate take.
Yeah. So your balance swells quickly. I couldn't decide whether to use fattens or swells. So your bank account swells up or it fattens up. I couldn't decide which one to use.
Well, I like fattens better.
Yeah, good. I'm glad I chose that one.
Swells, there was something strange there.
Peter,
What?
get your mind out of the gutter.
You don't know what I'm thinking. Whatever
You're
you're
right.
thinking is what you're thinking.
Oh, boy. So you're going to turn that around on me, huh?
Yeah, it's yours. I didn't say anything. It's your thinking.
So, if you want to know what about 1 in 100 investors understand, and I conservatively wrote 1 in 100. It might be more. And more meaning more than 100.
Yeah, 1 in 200.
Yeah. So what you should know, or what you want to know, that 1 in about 100 investors that make big profits on deals. If you want to know that, then this is probably the right podcast to listen to, and you might want to take notes.
Every time you say that, I go, damn it, I didn't bring paper.
All right. What you could what if you could analyze, like I said before, what if you could analyze a property using the fewest numbers possible and get the biggest profit?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then buy it, sell it, and increase your bank account so that you don't have to struggle with the inconvenience of a job or any other source of labor-intensive income.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the objective, right? I mean, really think about it. Isn't that what most people want?
You know, some people can't even conceive that. They're just not at that point. Others think about it and just don't know how or don't trust themselves. I know people like, yeah, I sure wish, and then they just can't.
Right.
So it's the rest of us crazy bastards who go for it.
Well, what's the only reason why someone would work a job?
Because they can't make their own.
Okay. Or they don't know how to do it another way.
Yeah. They can't, get their own job going.
So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you get this image? In other words, can you understand that, get this image? This is what I want you to get. You can buy it, sell it, and increase your bank account so that you don't have to struggle with the inconvenience of a job or some labor-intensive income producer.
Mm-hmm.
You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Now, I have my own image. Obviously, we all have our own mental image pictures.
Yeah.
Right? So I wrote mine down. So you got yours. So I'm going to share mine because that's all I can do because that's what I know. That's what I see. Right? So here's the image that I get when I think that.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Yeah.
I'm just going to rattle it off.
Go for it.
I make huge profits when I work.
Yeah, I saw in your emails. I looked at it and said, yeah, when he works.
When I work.
Yeah, you'll have these spells like, I don't know. Should I try this?
I'm doing stuff.
Maybe do something else.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Maybe I'm going to change something.
Then I need money and I go to work and I make huge profits. Right? I love the excitement of deal making. You know that.
Yeah.
Anybody that's around me knows that.
Yeah, and the rest of us think, you got to be crazy because that's the one thing we just don't have figured out as well as you do.
Right.
But you got it pretty figured.
For sure, this one is true. For sure, this one is true. I am definitely my own boss. Right? Agreed?
Well, I just ran into your wife upstairs.
I'm definitely my own boss. She said we can't talk about her on the podcast. She gave me hell this morning. She said heard us.
That's all I said.
She heard us talking about her a couple weeks ago on the podcast. That's what she said. She says, I was going to come down and interrupt. I said, come on down, sweetheart. I would love to hear from you.
You know what, Bill? One day, just one day, there's the extra seat.
Yeah.
Just have Pam join us.
We should do that. Okay.
I have a lawyer appointment today. I think I'm bringing the wife. Hey, you want to go too? Come meet the folks. Come meet the people.
I'm the director and run my own show. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My schedule belongs to me and no one else. So I'm going through, this is what I see when I talk about this.
Yeah.
Right? This is why I do what I do, right? I enjoy time off whenever I want. Right?
Yeah.
You've seen that. There's a lot less stress in my life. Doesn't mean that I have no stress, but there's a lot less stress. Because I don't have somebody else trying to enforce their ideas onto me always.
Yeah, it's different when you have your own things going, and if it isn't really great or the way you really want it, it's still yours, and you'll just back up and do something with it. It's not like somebody else calls the shot. You get to say yes, no, you're fired.
Sure.
You know?
My attitude is, for the most part, happier. Right? Now, when I say for the most part, I mean, of course, there's going to be things that piss you off or something happens, but I bounce right back.
Yeah, let's be real.
I'm resilient. Right? I'm not like euphoric. You know, my heads are in the clouds and I'm not paying attention to my problems, which that's what euphoric means.
Uh-huh.
Right? My house is my office. There are days when it snows around here that I don't leave for, I mean, there are weeks where I don't leave here for days. It snows or something like that, or I might rattle around all week and on a Friday afternoon bolt myself in and not even leave the house till Monday or Tuesday. Everything I need is here. I never miss family stuff. There's something going on with family, I go. I just went to Florida for 4 days or 3 days with my kids. and did a whole family thing. In fact, the biggest thing they had to do is they had to convince me to go. They were all there, and they had to convince me because I'm like working. And I'm like, finally, one of them said to me, well, what do you really have to do? Can't it wait till you come back? And it's like, yeah, probably. It was me putting the pressure on, nobody else.
Yeah.
Right? When my wife wants to spend time together, I can do it. Right? Now, again, I have to choose, right? But I can do it.
You can say no.
I can say no.
You say no effing way.
Easy.
I said F.
Extended family is something I can help when I want to. I donate a whole lot of money. I donate a lot of money to charity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's only a few charities, but I donate a lot. Okay? You do too.
Yep.
My house is exactly where I want it and what I want. At this particular point this year, I got to do some fix-up stuff, but that's just normal. I've been here 10 years.
Yep.
Right? I take dream vacations. We talked about that this morning. I take dream vacations when I want to. They're my dream vacations. I'm not that type of guy that, goes to the Bahamas, or I have other places I like to go and visit, but they're my dream vacations. That's what I want. A lot of times it's for personal enhancement and that kind of stuff, right? And most important, I do what I want to do when I want to do it. That totally sums up my personality. I do what I want to do when I want to do it.
And the way you want to do it, and how you want to do it. Yeah, that's you.
Yep. Am I rich? I don't think so. No, in fact, there's some times where I'm completely broke. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I free? I don't think so. I mean, I have obligations. I couldn't just take off for a year. I wouldn't want to.
Mm.
I don't know why anybody would want to work their way into a nothing. I mean, the fun of doing something is the trip. You have a goal. We've talked about this so many times. You have a goal, and the happiness comes from overcoming the obstacles and the barriers and the known barriers to that goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's the happiness.
Yeah. Well, people try to find happiness by having fun.
Yeah.
And I like having fun. But when it's over, I'm sorry, it's empty.
Right.
I am sorry. If you go someplace with your family, have a great time, it's not like bad or empty, but if you do something purposeful, something that you accomplish something, that somebody goes, thanks, that was really wonderful that you did that. I really appreciate that. I've been helping a family through a death.
Yeah.
Somebody died, and I've been on the phone for days helping them with things.
Yep.
I didn't go to the movies.
Right.
But that is so meaningful.
Yep.
Then I'll go to the movies.
Exactly.
But something meaningful.
The only job that I had in the last 35, maybe 40 years, we'll say 35 years, is I worked for a company out of California, and I was a high-end consultant. I actually sold consulting for automotive repair shops because I owned an automotive repair shop for 25 years. And I was the troubleshooter. So I would go out to these seminars. We would have seminars, and I would sit with 10 to 15 auto repair shop owners a week, 40-plus weeks a year. So I traveled 40-plus weeks a year, all over the United States and Canada. I would leave on a Friday, do the seminar Saturday and Sunday, come home on a Monday. Kind of a rigorous job. Yep. But I liked it, and I did it for 6 years. It's the only time I did it. Was the top sales guy. I ended up being in charge of it was called the tours unit. I was in charge of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Right? I had 4 or 5 salesmen. I had a couple speakers. I had a girl in the office. I had the whole 9 yards. Right? And made good money. Decent money. Not as much as I make with real estate.
Yep.
I got a hair across my ass mid-2013, like July. Because all of a sudden, I'm like thinking about the 80-20 rule, which we're going to talk about today, and I thought to myself, where's 80% of my money coming from? What 20% activity am I doing that I'm getting 80% of my money? So it's like I looked at it and I'm like, it was backwards because 20% of my efforts were going into buying and selling real estate with my 19-year-old daughter at the time, who was living with me, Jessie, my oldest daughter. And she was like running around writing checks, and I'd call her up and say, just do this and do that if I needed it. A lot of times when I was back during the week, I could just deal with it during the week because it didn't take much. And I was very relaxed, but I made more money doing that than the other way around. And I realized that 80% of my time was going into the job to get 20% of my income. It's kind of a little bit off, but it was close. So I quit the job. 2013. I actually quit in July of 2013, and I gave them whatever month notice because I told them I was leaving in October. So I would train somebody else. Well, I got to October, and they were like, I'm like getting down to the wire. I was a few shows out, and I told them, don't forget, this is my last show. And my boss is like, what do you mean? Long story short, she didn't think I was serious. So bottom line is I ended up staying until December. And I did whatever I did. I trained the new guy, blah, 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 all that stuff. But in 2013, here's the point of the story. I actually went, I think, almost 2 years without working. I didn't even do much real estate. I just didn't work. And I was kind of like retired, although I wasn't expecting to be retired. And I got to tell you that first of all, the first 6 months was good because I decompressed, traveling 40 weeks a year for 6 years. I mean, it was like kind of was programmed. So it took me 6 or 8 months just to decompress and actually get used to not doing that again.
Wow, that long, huh?
Yeah. And, try to get my diet back in place and, lose some weight. And I mean, I could still lose more weight, but I was even heavier back then, and it just, not get used to sleeping in the same place all the time, you know what I mean? And just kind of decompress. It took me at least 6 to 8 months. After that, it was not fun. I don't know what, I didn't realize that I was even miserable, but I was because I had nothing to do. I had no plans. I wasn't hooked up with the church. I wasn't, I was doing a few little volunteer things. I was messing around with some online stuff, online businesses I was trying to do. I was educating myself on search engine optimization because I thought I wanted to do that. And it was just not a good part of my life. And I guess I'm droning on about this because people don't understand that. Until you do that, until you get to the other end, you don't know that.
Well, I run into people sometimes that seem to want to be left completely alone.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone. I want to be in my home and don't touch me, don't talk to me, leave me alone. I want to be, and I don't get that. Yeah. This sounds miserable to me.
Yeah.
So, no, we like being out in public.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going on way too long. So I like to be independent. And
hey, Bill, well, how'd the story end?
I eventually.
What's the punchline?
I eventually not bumped into. You came back, and I started doing some more real estate, and here we are. It's a couple years later.
That's what I thought. Just wanted the end.
Yeah. So I like to say that I'm independent and that I'm in control of my own destiny. Actually, I love to work, and I work a lot. I do work a lot. The difference is I do what I do it on my own terms. I do what I want when I want to do it. By the way, who made up the rules, anyways, that you got to work 40 to 70 hours for the man?
Well, I hear the 40 hours came from Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Who came up with 70.
Yeah. Right? So why do you have to do that? It's just a matter of a decision. Right? Now, I'm not telling you that you can next week not work 40 hours, but I am saying that you could do some things to get started with that. And one of the things is obviously listen to these podcasts, mine or others. I'm not the only ones that do podcasts, so listen to as much as you can. So the answer to the question is who made up the rules that you have to work for the man 40 to 70 hours a week? And I have an answer.
The man?
No. The untrained herd.
Yeah.
That's who tells you that. So
exactly.
So if you wanna get out of the trap, then I advise the worst thing you can do is listen to what everybody else does, right? And the reason why I say that is because of the 80-20 rule, right? Like we were just talking about,
right?
20% of your activity, right, will give you 80% of what you really need and want. So we talked about this in one of the podcasts. So that means in the course of a day, if you do 10 things, that means 2 of them really count.
So how does somebody figure that out in a job? Because most people just sit there and do something, don't do something, and they just punch the clock and they get paid at the end of the week by putting all the hours in. So do they, and they have to be there. Just that's the deal. You talking about people in jobs or people that are trying to be independent?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I've heard that people in jobs, wind up at the water cooler 80% or meetings 80% or other things.
So this just happened to me because, as you know, last year I volunteered at a church.
Yeah.
Right. It's not supposed to be volunteered. I'm supposed to get paid, but that comes and goes, right? It's like whatever on that part. It's not a lot of money. Let's put it that way. And I'm an executive there. I'm one of 3 people that actually run the church, right?
Yep.
So I think about it a lot, and I didn't realize what I do. Whenever I go into an area, it's usually, most often it's confused. Not always, but most of the time there's some confusion and there's some order that has to go in. So I kind of just observe what's going on, what's the normal patterns, how do people communicate to one another, because I've done this before, right? So I just kind of watch the patterns, watch how things flow, how things kind of happen. I spend like the first 3 months on this job, I just watched how things happen. And one thing that a lot of people have trouble with is they connect time with products. Like I put 30 hours into this, it should be worth this much, right? And I don't know where I came up with this at a very young age. I can remember doing this when I was before teenage years. I remember thinking to myself, I guess I was always lazy. I guess that's what it really was. I was lazy and I was just a dumbass.
Maybe you're just efficient, Bill.
Yeah. So I would think, okay, so what's the quickest way that first thing I would do is I would find out what effect did I want to create? What product did I want to get? What thing did I want to have that was most notable? What's the biggest bang I can get for my buck? And I would figure that out. So let's say it was a bottle of water, right? I would think to myself, how could I get a bottle of water most efficiently or most quickly?
Call mom.
And I would investigate. What I would do is I would go, and you ask my kids, or you ask anybody that's around me, I dive in. Em, can I get you on the mic? You got to help me out here, because I could say it, right? So what happens when I get an idea? First of all, what happens to the front doorstep?
Books start showing up.
Amazon. I go on eBay. I buy stuff, right? And is it fair to say that when I decide I want to do something that I completely immerse myself in it?
Yes.
And what happens when I do that? Now, you're my youngest daughter, also my assistant every day. That's why I have you on the mic. So what happens when I do that? What happens?
It starts happening.
Yeah. And we make mistakes. And we try things. I mean, how many things have we tried, with the information business, right? And we're not even that good at it, right? So, but I'm willing to try things. I'm willing to lose. But one thing that I do is I test and I look at results, right? I'm constantly looking at results. And in the end, what happens?
A result.
Yeah. Now, sometimes the result's enough. Sometimes it's not. But I have an effect that I'm trying to create in my head. Right? So, thank you, Emma. So, there you go. I mean, that's just my personality.
Yeah, well, we see that all the time. I mean, even people that follow you, I think they can notice.
Right.
If you look at the last couple of years, how things have progressed, changed, morphed into like easier, more effective means of doing things, and then just changed occasionally.
So it's not even like I feel like I'm like bragging here, but it's not even about that. It's just you have to figure out what's important and what's not. There's senior datums and there's regular datums, and like what's the most important thing. So I like to break it down to simplicities. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about, that's what this podcast is about. It's about the 20%, those most important things that you should do, especially if you have a job or family, or you're a mother and got kids, or a father and got kids, or anything like that. Like, what should you do that would most efficiently get you to where you want to go, right? So you have to understand this first. Okay, so before you do that, you have to understand this. So do you want to do ugly houses or do you want to do pretty houses? That makes a difference. Now, I know on many podcasts I've talked about before, if you're just a marketing person, you just cast your net, something will come in. So you don't even have to consciously say, I just want to do ugly, I just want to do pretty. Just do your marketing, right? Now, you have to have some sort of an idea, because if you're going to do your marketing, obviously you're not going to send yellow letters to pretty houses and expect to buy an ugly house, right? So you do want to match your message with your market. So when I say pick one, I'm talking about which market do you want to use. Now we use, and you can find all this on our website. Just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. What I'm talking about right now is the attracting motivated sellers. I go over in great detail how I do direct mail, and how I pick the list, and how I find the list, and how I don't even pay for the list. I mean, I go to the city hall and get the list. Some cities charge for it, but most don't.
Right.
Okay?
Yep. It's not a lot.
And we actually fix. I'm sorry. We fixate ourselves on the market. Who do we want to talk to? And then we match the message to it, right? And basically that drags in ugly houses and pretty houses.
Sure.
Right?
Because you don't know what they are. It's just houses.
So I'm not telling you to just pick an industry like I want to be a wholesaler. A lot of people tell me I want to be a wholesaler. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to do that. What I'm telling you is to get your marketing set up, especially if you do direct mail like we do. And again, if you want to know how to do that, it's attracting motivated sellers. If you don't want to do direct mail, I think that's like $97 or something. We have another one called, what is it called? Deal hunting, I think it is. Yeah, it's called deal hunting, right? And that's more focused on pretty houses, and that's like it's like less than $50, I think. It's $37 or $17, something like that. Okay. Point is that those two devices could help you immensely on how to find somebody. So you don't have to always decide like I'm going to just do pretty houses or ugly houses, but when you get the deals, because think of it this way, Peter. If I spend $100 to do marketing or $50 to do marketing, or I don't do any marketing and I just get on the phone and I just start calling FSBO people for sale by owners, and I find an ugly house and I don't want to buy an ugly house, is it possible that I could write a contract and sell it to somebody else?
Sure.
So what's the big deal?
You could wholesale by default, not
Right.
that you're looking for it, but if it turns out to be one, then you could.
Right. So that you're going to find somebody. That, by the way, that would be the best thing that can happen to you, because if you find that deal, it's going to force you to go out and find other investors and network with other people, which is the best thing you can do. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the first thing you have to understand is that you have to figure out whether you're dealing with an ugly house or a pretty house. And the only reason why I say that is because when we start doing the math in a couple minutes, it makes a difference. Now, you and I talk a lot about pretty houses. If you're going to buy pretty houses, then you're going to need to do some of the things we're going to talk about in the next couple minutes. If you're buying ugly houses, then it's just math.
Right.
You're dealing with banks and lawyers and realtors and all that kind of stuff, and it's a different type of a game. It's a great game, but it's just a different way, a different approach. And some of the things that we talk about won't fit in that arena, right? So if you're going to deal with pretty houses, then what you need to know is you need to know these two things. That the seller's logic means a lot, which is the numbers. So you need to know the logic of the deal, right? Number two, you need to know where the seller is. What's their emotions on it, right? What is he or she willing to do? How do they emotionally feel about the deal, right? Now, most don't know when they're making offers, they usually only use number one. They use logic. They never think about number two. So there's a whole industry out there, which we are part of, on how to make those offers. It's not just about the numbers. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come to my meetups or send me support tickets, that my deal structuring is so good that they think that I can make an offer for any deal, which is true. You tell me the price of a house and I'll give you 3 offers.
Sure. Doesn't mean the person would like any of them.
Right.
They may not like them.
So they get frustrated because they got all the math. They spent all the time on the mathematics.
Right. So why isn't the seller selling to them? Your math is correct.
Right. So many people come into our arena and they want to learn deal structuring. And I'm like chuckling because it's like, yeah, it's okay to know deal structuring like I do, but that's not how I got started. I mean, I got started off just talking to people. So you're better off to understand people and understand some of the emotional part of it than the actual numbers. Because worst case scenario is you can say to somebody, well, I really like your house. I need to talk to my partner. Or I need to talk to my wife, or I need to whatever. I'll give you an offer tomorrow. If as long as you talk to them and they're willing to let you make monthly payments till you can get them paid off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that part is what I'm talking about. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? Enough theory. So, like I said, most real estate is bought and sold based on the price and the price only, right? Let's say I'm a seller and I want $100K, right?
Sure.
That's it. That's all logic, right? I just want $100K, right? No emotion. It's just the way that realtors and bankers do this, and it has no conscience.
It's like shopping at the supermarket.
Right. But I want to get that. There's no conscience. Right? Money has no conscience. It's just money.
Yeah.
So like that whole part of that is very hurtful because it's dog eat dog.
Oh. It's just the numbers at that point.
Right. So it's like if I want $100,000 and you want to pay me 90, it's like a tug of war. Who's going to win? Because it's like you know what I mean? Like who's going to get what, right?
Well, there's no other leverage.
Right.
It's just the numbers.
Now, how about this? How about we use a part of our magical script? Okay, the for sale by owner script.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you can find that script at flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff is a for sale by owner script. So just go there and you can get what I'm talking about. Okay?
Sure.
But I'm going to read the sentence because you use it, but I want you to tell me the power of this sentence or these few sentences once I get done, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm definitely interested in buying your house, and a lot of times it works best by doing something with the financing. You have a mortgage on the house, right?
Yes, I do.
So what is your experience with that? Actually, I'm going to read it again because I read it kind of quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm definitely interested in buying your house. Okay, so what does that tell them?
That you're real,
Yep.
That they might have a sale here, so listen up and cooperate.
Right. And a lot of times it works out best by doing something with the financing.
So something is better.
Right.
Not sure what, but something's better.
You have a mortgage on the house, right?
Assumption.
Yeah.
No reason to deny it.
Right. So what happens when you give that to a person?
Well, they start working with you. And then, of course, the next question is, how much is the mortgage? But that warms them up to know that you actually are serious. You actually might buy the house. You're trying to do something, but it would be best if you can do something in the financing. Some way, whatever that is. We don't know yet, but it's best.
Right.
And, you have a mortgage, right? That's not like this huge, like, how did you know? People have mortgages.
So those couple sentences is exactly what I was talking about before. Remember I was talking about how I try to find things that make the biggest effect and the most, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one of those things. It sounds simple.
Yeah.
Truly, for real, that's an investor's wet dream. It is. I mean, it's like a kind of harsh way I'm saying it, but that's like a wet dream for an investor.
Well, before these lines appeared in our lives, people just ask, how much do you owe on your mortgage?
Right.
And it's a little bit blunt.
And it would create like a ridge.
Yeah. Some people have more trouble than others, maybe just their communication. But why not soften the question with a couple of little build-ups?
Because we took it from logic to emotion.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm talking about. See, before it was just logical. How much you owe on the house?
What do you want to know?
And I know that this seems like this podcast is kind of like maybe dragging on a little bit, but I really want you to get to understand the importance of what we're talking about. Understand some of the theory here. Okay? So what I'm talking about right now, those few sentences, I'm definitely interested in buying your house. And a lot of times it works out best by doing something with the financing. You have a mortgage, right? Okay, you have a mortgage on the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is, in case you didn't get it, that is a 20% thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you have 10 tasks in a day and you could do this once or twice or 3 times in a day, your life will change. Your life will change.
Yeah.
Because if you're filling out a for sale by owner script, which, like I said, you find at flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. There's one there. Just go get it for free. And you actually go on Zillow or on Google and type in your city, state, or county or whatever and just put for sale by owner, New Haven, Connecticut, is what I do. You'll find Zillow's the biggest one there. You'll find dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of property. All you got to do is just pick a handful of them. Don't evaluate them. Don't do anything. Just pick a handful of them and call people and do the script. And I'll guarantee you within a 24-hour period, I will shut this podcast down, close my entire business if it doesn't work. That's how serious I am.
Well, how could it not work? Calling people that want to sell their house, have a conversation with them, and keep making phone calls till you find somebody that's willing to do what you're looking for.
Right.
I mean, it's work and it's a little bit of time, but how could it not work?
All right, so these seem like they're bold statements that we're making. Like, I'll shut my business down if it doesn't work. Okay, bold statements. But...
oh, you're just being dramatic.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But it's true. I mean, I can't imagine that people are still wondering about it. You can be afraid. If you want to be afraid, go ahead, be afraid. Right. Waste your time being afraid. Be too busy, fine. I'm busy sometimes too, and I screw it up, but then I get back at it. But if you want to do something, do it.
Right. I saw one the other day that we're going to start using.
What?
Yeah. So you know how people say I'll call people like they'll email me or support ticket me and they'll want to talk about a deal or they want to do a free session, which I do. I do a free half-hour session, or they just point blank want to talk about coaching. And I get on the phone and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to you." You know, like I'm a guru.
Yeah.
You know what I tell them? I'm not a guru. I have a new name.
Oh no.
I'm a duru.
Oh, God.
I'm a duru. That's what I am.
Jeez.
All right. So let's get back to what our promise was at the beginning of the show, which is how to analyze a property using the fewest numbers possible for the most profit.
Right.
Okay. So what we do is we've asked them the question, I'm definitely interested in buying your house. And a lot of times it works best by doing something with financing. You have a mortgage on the house, right? So they say yes, and they tell you how much the mortgage is.
Yep.
Right. Now I ask, so let's just role play for a second. So,
sure. Go ahead.
So Peter, I'm definitely interested in buying your house.
Oh yeah.
Yep. A lot of times, what happens though is we do something with the financing. You have a mortgage on the house, right?
Yeah.
How much is it?
I think you still owe 127.
Okay, good. And how much are the monthly payments?
They're $1,300.
And does that include the taxes and the insurance?
Yeah.
Are there any other fees like condo associations or any other?
No.
There's no other like second mortgage or anything like that. It's
a $10,000 home a line of credit, $10,000.
Is that part of the $1,300?
No, that's another whatever. You know.
So what's the minimum payment?
100.
Okay, so everything all in is like $1,400 a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So how hard was that? Because that's how it goes 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Now, you will get one jerk.
It's really rare, but the thing is, when you get the jerk, you know he's a jerk, so stop.
He's a suspect. Get him off the phone.
When do you want to find out? At the end, when you're almost when the paper won't sign, you just go.
Right. Okay. So now that we have the number, because you said how much did you say you owed? 100.
127.
127.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, how much are you asking for the house, Peter?
185.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We have the most important numbers. These are the numbers I'm talking about. So he owes 127, and he wants 185. So here's what you do. You take the 127, you get a calculator, and you put 127,127,0000 in the calculator, hit the divide button, and then you put in 185,185,000, and you hit the equals button. And when you get all done, it's going to have a percentage. Whoa. Sorry about that. Are you
missed?
wet?
Nope. Well, teed it.
I just dropped my drink trying to get the calculator. So you do 127,000 divided by 185,000, and that leaves you at 68%.
Okay.
Okay? So that's the number you need to know. Is 68%. We're going to clean up the thank you, Emma. The green tea all over the table now.
Oh, you're supposed to drink it and throw it at me.
You know what happened is I can't see over there with the microphone.
Oh.
So I went to move my hand and the microphone was in my way to get the calculator. I knew the calculator was there, but I couldn't see it. Anyways.
I do this sometimes, but there's no microphone in the way.
Yeah. Okay, so we got that.
Yeah.
So
you
we're
got
down to 68%.
68% loan to value.
Right. So that's the number we need to know. Why is that number so important?
Well, that tells you how much equity is in the house, and it tells you what kind of deal you might be able to do. You can't just do any old deal. It depends on. I mean, what if a house has complete equity or zero equity? You're gonna have to look at it differently. How you're gonna buy it, how you're gonna finance it. So it has a bearing on how you can finance it, how you can buy it.
How many realtors do you think have done deals, or how many have you heard of, where the deal is going along, it's chugging along, and it gets to the closing, and they can't close because the seller has to come to the table with money?
They get that far and not realizing. I mean, the realtor doesn't realize it up front.
Right. Because often they don't ask these questions. They don't ask how much you owe.
I know the seller wouldn't ask necessarily, but a realtor, if they'd been through this, they wouldn't realize that would happen.
Well, some of them are, some of them aren't.
Well, I've seen some new realtors that, but the broker, I mean, geez, seriously, you don't want to find that out at the end. Ouch.
So, at the end of every closing, what does the seller want?
His equity back, whatever profit is left in the deal.
He wants his check.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say in this particular case, right, I'm actually going to make it simple. I'm going to change the deal. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we had a house that you owed $80,000 on and it was worth $100,000.
Right.
Right. That means you got $20,000 worth of equity.
Yep.
Or profit.
Yep.
In that, which is 20%. Okay. So in that 20%, you need to, that's got your profit plus all your closing costs.
That's right. It's not your profit yet.
Right.
The expenses of doing the deal.
So anybody that does anything with numbers knows that there's a gross profit and a net profit.
Sure.
Gross is like the profit before you pay your expenses.
Yeah, look at your paycheck.
Right? Exactly. So you have FICA or whatever it is, you have your 401k, you have all these deductions from your paycheck, and then you have the spendable amount.
Yeah.
Right? So most owners of a house don't know how much that is. Here's my point. What do they want?
As big check as they can get.
That check.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's a house that's over leveraged, they want the debt to stop. They want the payment. They don't want to make that $1,500 a month payment anymore, or they don't want it in their name, or they want the tax bill that's been chasing them around to go away.
Right.
That's like getting a check.
Even if they're not getting a check, they're getting relief from the abuse.
Right. So I've had houses where they got like $10,000 or $15,000 worth of taxes on them. That's actually the 20% profit. They just had to pay the taxes with it.
Yep.
So they made a profit. They just need to pay the taxes with it. Right. So here's the value of what I'm trying to deliver here. Those are the numbers. Get right to those numbers quickly, right? So the name of the podcast is we started off with how to analyze a property using the fewest numbers possible for the most profit. So figure out what the seller's profit is as quick as possible.
That's funny because I know we do this all the time, but people never talk about that. They talk about how much do you want for the house?
Right.
185.
Right.
Well, what if you owed 185?
Right.
What if you owed 85? What if you owed nothing? Those are completely different numbers.
Right. So here's the cool part. Okay. So, of course, this is a pretty house that we're talking about.
Okay.
Right. That he owes the 80% on. Right. What happens if he owed 110%?
Well, he's over leveraged, and adding closing costs to that, he'd really have to bring a lot to the table.
And what does he do now?
Well, if he doesn't find somebody like us,
He goes into foreclosure.
he goes in foreclosure or sits there, rents it for 10 years, and
Well, you can't even rent it. Suppose you can't even rent it. Right? So what we're talking about now is what we call a slot deal, or what I call a slot deal. We call a slot deal. It's a sandwich lease option transaction. Transfer.
yeah.
So it's sandwich lease option transfer. It's a slot deal. It's an acronym. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, scroll down at the bottom of the page, and there's a 20-minute video on showing you how all the math works and how you can actually buy a house like this, make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. Right? You could still buy that house for $110,000 and make $10,000.
Yep.
Okay. So the cool part about what we do is we go. So what I'm telling you is the way to analyze the numbers to analyze is how much do they owe, right?
Yep.
And how much do they want for the house?
Mm-hmm.
And you divide one into the other and figure out what their profit is. Now, in that profit, they have to pay their closing cost and everything else to, their lawyer and all that. It's all part of the closing cost. And then they get to keep the rest. The sooner you can get to that number, the better off you are. And then here's even the cooler part. So the cool part is, as I was talking about, you could pay for over leveraged houses. Now, how many people are teaching that out there? That you can buy over leveraged houses? Ron LeGrand is the only guy that I know. I don't know anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wolves who work for the Ron LeGrand, right? Which, by the way, I got to give Ron LeGrand a lot of credit because he opened my mind up to this. Now, I've elaborated on it, and I've done a lot of deals and been a lot more creative, but he was the original guy that showed me that it's even possible.
Right.
So he should get credit for that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at the end of the day, once you figure out what his profit is, the seller's profit is, he or she, right? Wouldn't it make sense that you use one of my 7 formulas to try to figure out how to pay him that profit? Right?
That's right, because that's the real number. Right. That's the real number. He's not getting $185,000.
Right.
He's not getting $110,000. He's getting whatever's left.
Right. So it would make sense, right? Let me get my notes straight here, because I know I had. So at the end of the day, if he wants all of his cash now, right? Then you have to pay less money. You got to get a discount.
Yeah.
If he's willing to wait, right?
Yeah.
Then he can pay more money. You can pay more money.
Sure.
Now, I know that I'm talking about, buying a house at 80%, 85%, or 90%, right? So the formulas I use starts at 100% and it goes down to 90%. It goes down to 80%, 90%, 85%, 90%, right? I'll do that again. Starts off at 100%, goes down to 90%, goes down to 85%, 80%, 70%, 60%. And depending on how much that number is, the difference between what they owe and what they're asking, this determines which offer you would consider giving them. So I know that this is a little bit confusing if this is your first podcast. So if you just go to other podcasts where we talk about it, you can go to podcast number 37, 68, 73, and 98. And we talk about it quite a bit. So if you go back to podcast episode number 37, episode 68, episode 73 and episode 98, we kind of specifically talk about how that happens.
Right.
We talk about the 7 strategies and what to do. Or you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff and just watch the 7 or 8 videos.
Mm-hmm.
All right, probably take you maybe an hour and a half to watch everything.
Good education.
Yeah. Now let's bring in some Houdini magic. Okay. If we absorb the seller's closing costs, right? Because we know that's usually 12 to 15%. Right? And go back and listen to those episodes and you'll know what that 12 to 15% is. If we absorb the seller's closing costs, right? Offer them more than anyone else can offer them, like up to 110%. Even if they owe nothing for the property and they want 110%, right?
Yeah.
You could still buy the house, still make money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If we do all that, did we or did we not go from logic to emotional?
Yeah. Because in certain circumstances, the logic flies out the window because you can't even do the deal.
Right.
But then absorbing closing costs, that's a big problem.
Right.
That's an emotional. Honey, how are we going to do that?
I just had a deal a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where the girl owed $155, house was worth $130. She had some money because unfortunately her husband passed away, and I think she had some money from that, and she had a job transfer, so I think her company gave her some money, so she had some money. She wouldn't disclose how much, which rightfully so she shouldn't. But the point is that she knew the house was worth $130, and it needed $20,000 worth of repairs.
Hey boy.
So that's like $40,000, $45,000, right? So the house is worth $110.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
110 to an end user, somebody that will come in and fix it up themselves. That's not an investor because we haven't taken. Well, she's getting offers of $80,000 for that house.
Sure.
And it was livable. It just, it wasn't trashed. I mean, they were living in it. It just it heavily needed a kitchen, and it needed rugs, and there was a leaky roof, and blah 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 blah. Right?
Sure. Who's going to buy that when they can go down the street and get one that's all renovated?
Right.
And all done.
So here's the punchline on that story. What bank is going to finance that house with all those problems? Right? I mean, those problems are not going to pass an inspection, and if it doesn't pass an inspection, then the bank won't lend the money.
Yeah, for an end user buying it directly from her.
Right.
Yep.
So you have to get somebody that has enough money to do the repairs and have the down payment. Right?
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, that's just, so we come along and we say, oh, we can help you, right? Because that's all the logic. That's all the math. That's just the math. Now so what kind of an emotional state are they going through dealing with all that math? And now we come along and say, we can help you. How about we do this and how about we do that? It takes the whole deal from just being numbers to feeling good about it and like, oh, there's relief. Oh, the emotional strain is gone. Oh, the stress is gone. You see?
Yeah, it's funny. With the logic, there are no solutions for some of that. Right. The bank won't give you, give a loan to the buyer.
Right.
Somebody buying this.
And money can't fix that.
The realtor can't sell it. He's afraid he won't get paid.
Right.
So it can't be done.
Right.
So the logic just says no. How you like that emotion?
Right.
No, and all the repercussions.
Right.
But then you find solutions to those crazy things that resolves the emotional issues.
So we know that people make decisions based on their emotions and they back it up with logic. Right? So this is why what we do works so well. Right? But having the right numbers, what we're talking about, gets us there quicker. So knowing what they owe, knowing what they're asking, dividing one into the other, tells us how much their profit is, and then we figure out one of the 7 deals that I do, one of the 7 strategies that we use, and figure out how you're going to pay them the money.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go.
Yep.
I mean, do that enough times in a week, and what are you going to get? Now, I want to clear something up here. because I can feel it coming through the microphone facetiously.
I'm listening.
What happens if they're asking too much money? What happens if in your situation you say you owe 127 and the house is worth 185? What happens if the house is not worth 185? You know we're going to get support tickets on that one, right? What do you do?
Is that their real number?
Well, suppose the house is only worth 175, not 185.
Right. Will they come off that number?
Well, so here's the point that I want to make is that, first of all, you shouldn't get your panties in a knot and like stop thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what you really need to know at the end of the day, the qualifications, and we do this from the opening call into the closing call and going out to look at the house. So this is not done in 3.5 seconds.
Sure.
Which, by the way, is the 20% of the tasks that you should be doing on a deal that's going to get you the most effect. It's going to get you 80% of your money doing the things we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing is when you're talking to somebody, you got to do the actual math. You have to get the raw numbers, like we're talking about, like how much you owe on the mortgage, how much your payments, just like the role play we did a little bit earlier, and just do your math, straight math, just the 100% logic, right? Then once you figure that out, you got to figure out what's the seller's emotion on it. What are they willing to do? I mean, we've had people that are free and clear, and they're asking, or they will not budge off of 110% of the market value. They just won't budge.
No, they have. Sometimes emotion works and doesn't work out so hot because they're just really stuck emotionally crazy, kind of like. But you try.
Once you get through the math and once you get through the seller's motivation point, like what are they motivated to do, right? Like in a particular case, I love those deals when they're asking too much money because they're so stuck on that they can't. Because there's two ways. That's how I figured out there's two ways to make money with real estate, right? One is with the equity, buy low, sell high, and the other is with cash flow. So if that guy wants to take the equity, let him have the equity. Just cash flow like a mad dog and just make money monthly. And then he'll loosen up. He'll be fine. But here's the point. Answering the question, what happens if it's too much money? The third qualifier is the house itself. You actually got to go out and look at the house and make sure it qualifies. Because I'm going to tell you right now, people lie all the time. People lie. They tell you the house is in great shape, and it's not. Or they tell you the house is a wreck, and you get there and it's beautiful. And it's not even that they're lying. It's just their perception. It's their reality on what it is.
Well, they got to pad the deal in their favor.
Right. So it's not a hard thing. You go out and qualify the house. You have to look at a house. How many times are we on the phone? How many times am I on the phone? I'll just talk about that. And they'll tell me on the phone, I call them up, I tell them who I am, what's your offer? And what's my answer? I haven't looked at the house yet. I don't know. Would you buy the house without looking at it? Would you buy it sight unseen?
Did you?
Yeah. Right? So it goes back to what I was talking about before is the seller's expectation and their inflation of the price and all that kind of stuff. You know, what is the seller expecting? Right? So the three things you got to get through is you got to get the actual numbers, like what do they owe, what are they asking, and the monthly amount. I mean, I've had houses. I've had a $200,000 house one time just recently. They owed like $130 or $140. Oh, that's good. But they had like a $2,500 a month mortgage payment because they had like a 13-year mortgage or 15-year mortgage or something like that.
Right.
And it kind of killed the deal because how am I going to do a rent to own on that property and get $2,500?
No, the payment's inflated because it's crunched down to half time. So
Right.
it's not doubled what it would be on a 30, but it's much higher.
Right.
And the rent won't sustain that.
All right, so the last thing I want to cover, so basically what you do is you're going to go out and look at the house. If it's overpriced, you're going to just have to talk your way through it. But don't make that decision on the phone or don't make that decision quick when they're asking $185 and you think it's worth $175. Too many times I've gone out to a house and find out, oh yeah, there's a garage in the back and there's an apartment upstairs that's like not really legal. Right?
Oh.
But it's beautiful. I mean, you're selling a house on a rent to own, and like somebody can easily put somebody up there and get $400 or $500 a month rent. okay, well, that's worth an extra 5 or 10 grand.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not selling it to a bank, so I don't have to worry about the value. I could go whatever 4, 5, 10 years on leasing it, right? And doing owner financing, right? So don't evaluate that quickly. That should be the last number. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't evaluate the value of the house. Besides the fact, because we're giving timely payments, if they're willing to let us pay over time, pay all their expenses and pay them off later, we should be paying all the way up to 110% of value anyways. We could pay 10% over the price of the house because they're giving us time to do it.
Right. You just ask for more time if there's if it's an inflated price.
Right. Okay. So last thing I want to cover, because I know we're at the end of the show here, is, so that's for pretty houses.
Yeah.
Right? So the numbers, so it's much different for an ugly house. Okay? So again, this is a Ron LeGrand formula. He claims that he made it. Others say they didn't. I don't know who made it, but I heard it from Ron LeGrand. So it's called the MAO, M-A-O, MAO, Maximum Allowable Offer, MAO formula. And basically what that is that's when you take the after renovated value. In other words, when you have an ugly house and you comp it, you don't comp it with ugly houses, you comp it with pretty houses because you intend to make this ugly house pretty.
Right. What's it going to be worth?
What it's going to be worth
when you're done.
Once it's fixed up. So you take that number, because suppose every house in the neighborhood is worth $230, but none of them have been renovated or anything like that, and they're kind of a little bit older, and you want to get $240, and you could do that because you have a brand new kitchen with, marble countertops, and you got a 2-car garage, and they have 1-car garage, and blah blah blah. So it's it's not always what they're worth. Excuse me. It's sometimes just the market value of it after it's been renovated. Take that number and you divide it by 70%, and you minus your repairs. Okay? And that's what you call the Mayo formula. That's the maximum you could pay. So if you're looking at a house on the MLS, right, and you want to, and the number is, let's say it's a $80,000 house, they're asking $80,000, but you do your comparables and realize after it's fixed up, it's worth, we'll say, $140,000. You would take $140,000, multiply it by 70%, minus repairs. Now, I'm not going to go into this now. You need to go back and listen to the episodes I talked about before. Let me see. I don't remember exactly which one it was. I tried to find it, but it's inside of one of the episodes. But I think it's in either episode number 37, episode number 68, episode number 73, or episode number 98. I don't remember which one because we talked about it. But when it comes to repairs, I use a square footage number. I either use $10 a square foot, $15 a square foot, $25 a square foot, $30 a square foot, or $35 a square foot. $25 a square foot is the most common number. Mm-hmm. That's for a renovation, which is a remove and replace. It's not a remodel. There's a difference. You should go listen to those podcasts and understand what the difference is, or go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff and look at the rehab retail video. And I explain it there. Okay. The point that I'm trying to make is that I've made many offers on the MLS. So if we have a $140,000 house, so let's get the math without spill. Oh, calculator doesn't work. Oh, okay. I was going to say now I spilled iced tea all over it. The calculator doesn't work. 140,000 times 70% equals 98,000.
Yep.
Right. So let's say it's a 1,000 square foot house, right? We would, if we did $25 a square foot, that would be minus 25,000, right? That would put us at 73,000. That's the maximum allowable offer. Doesn't mean you start there,
No, it's the maximum.
right? So if the bank is asking 80 grand, right, where would you start? I'd start at 63, 65, 66, somewhere down there, and work my way up.
Yep.
Right? But that mathematical formula works. Obviously.
What's funny about that is if you're not educated in this, you think, well, I have to go look at the house, see what it needs, find a contractor, ask them how much. But these things are fairly uniform. Painting and rugs and a kitchen. It's a kitchen. There's a sink. There's a dishwasher. There's a refrigerator. It's how big is it? They're not hugely different in size.
The interesting thing about what you're saying and what I'm trying to tell you right now is that you could, if you wanted to do the ugly house business, you go on the MLS and every day every 2 day, every day make 1 or 2 offers based on what I'm telling you, right? Because an offer isn't buying the house. So if you make 2 offers like what I just said, which was quick, but if you just did 2 offers like that, here's what you're going to figure out. Because I always tell you the only way to make money in real estate is to find a motivated seller, right? So if the bank is asking $80,000 and you come in at say $63,000, and I do an odd number, $898,000, $63,898. That's my offer. So it looks like there's some calculation there, right?
Yeah, you figured out exactly, and this is the most you can possibly pay.
Right. Either one of 2 things is going to happen. The bank's going to come back and say, we can't do 80, but we could do 73 or 75. Right? Or they're going to come back and say no. If they say no, they're a suspect. If they say yes at 73, then you're like, oh, I got one on the hook here. I got a bite on my fishing line.
Sure.
That's where you spend your time. You don't go spending time running around trying to figure out construction and all that other kind of stuff. If the bank says, I'll take 73, you counter, and now is the time to go out and look at that house. Because now you got a shot of, like, maybe your $25 a square foot is too much or not enough.
Right. Now you want to be sure. You don't want to.
Right. So now you go out and look. But you only do it once you find a motivated seller, which is the bank in this case. But at least you find them as motivated because they countered. So you might make 10 offers in a week, and it might be 2 weeks before somebody counters you, but that one counter is the one that you're going to go out and look at. That's where you're going to get your realtor. You're going to go out there. So you don't drag your realtor through those 20 offers over 2 weeks, because you're going to burn the realtor out. They're not going to realize that you're blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff to it. But instead, just have the realtor from their desk submit all these offers. You submit in the 20 offers, and all of a sudden you got one that says, okay, I'll take $73,000 instead of $80,000. Now you say to your realtor, okay, I want to go look at this house. Now you go out, you look at the house. If you need to bring your contractor in, you take a look at it, and that's the one you work on. So it goes back to the 20% rule. So I think I've covered hard wasn't so easy, I don't think.
What wasn't?
This podcast. I think I've covered what numbers you should cover, right? Let me see. Let me get back to my notes. So if you could analyze property using the fewest numbers possible and get the most profit, I think I've covered that.
Yeah, because it's not like this long drawn out process that you have to go to Home Depot and see how much things are. I mean, it's pretty ballparked.
Right. So in a pretty house, the numbers that I'm talking about. So how to analyze a property, right? Using the fewest numbers possible to find the most profit. So in a pretty house, the numbers you're going to use is you're going to find out the mortgage divided into what they're asking, and then you know what their percentage is and how much their profit is. And then you're going to focus on that profit, how you're going to pay them the profit with one of the 7 ways that we talk about buying houses.
Yep.
How are you going to pay them that profit? Is it going to be all now? Is it going to be later? Okay. If it's all now, then you got to pay the Mayo formula. If not, then you figure out the percentage, and you could either do a subject to deal, or getting a deed deal, or you could do a lease option, or you could do an option, or you could do a slot deal. Just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, and all that stuff is there. So that's the math on that. If it's an ugly house, then you're just going to use Ron LeGrand's Mayo formula. You're going to take the after renovated value, multiply it by 70%, minus the repairs, and that's your maximum allowable offer. You always start at least $5,000 less than that in case you want to wholesale it, and you start negotiating. At the end of this show, I want to make it be very clear that the quicker you can do those numbers, the more you'll buy deals. Now you have to be nice and you have to be polite. You don't want to be obtrusive or bold or harsh, or because there is an emotional part to it. But those are the numbers. Once you figure those numbers out, the rest of the business becomes people oriented, not numbers oriented. Make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, good. So we're over on time. So the only other thing that I want to say is that we have set up a new website, a new page, not website, Flipping Houses for Rookies /testimonials. I am looking for testimonials, and if anybody has made it to the end of the show, I should probably announce it at the beginning of the show, but I have a special deal. I'm going to ethically bribe people now.
It's ethical now?
It's ethical. I can ethically bribe them. So if you go to my flippinghouses4rookies.com /testimonial, or go to iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast and give us a review, because for some reason our reviews are like, what are they? They're 3.5 or 4. I don't know why that is. I don't know what happened. We were 5 for the longest time.
Oh.
But whatever.
Probably somebody who didn't listen.
Whatever. So I'm looking for reviews and I'm looking for testimonials. If you do either one of them and send me a support ticket that you did do them, and I can verify it, of course, I just published a new book, and I will mail you the book for free. We also have it on audio file. I can email you the audio file. We're selling the book for $15. And the audio file where somebody's reading the book is $27. So if you go and give me a testimonial about being on the podcast, and don't lie, obviously, I will send you a book, and I will send you an email of the MP3 file of somebody reading the book to you. If you go give me a testimonial, and it doesn't even have to be a good one. Just go give me a testimonial. Just tell me what you think. Either on iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast, or on our testimonial page. And there you go.
Sure.
So you have to give the testimonial, you have to do the review, and then send a support ticket in, and myself or Emma will mail you the book and email you the MP3 file of somebody actually reading the book. Okay, so it's about $40 or $50 worth of products. So that's my ethical bribe.
Okay.
I know I'm probably not supposed to do that, but I want the testimonials to be honest. I don't want to be.
You can't ask for a good testimonial to get something. That would be bad. Yeah, but if they're bad, you're going to get a lump of coal.
No, if they're bad, I'll still send it to you. Because here's the
thing: with
thing:
a lump of coal. No I'm kidding.
We really work hard to give people what they want. I want a 4 or 5 star review because that means that we're listening to the people that want our help. So sometimes we don't get enough feedback. We're at 900,000, just about 900,000 downloads on the podcast. And there's no way I could speak to 900,000 people. Not that even there is 900,000 people. Even if there's 3,000 or 5,000 or 2,000 or 1,000 people listening to all those podcasts, or 10,000. I don't know how many people there are.
Yeah.
But if we don't get feedback, we don't know. I'm in my mind, I'm working on 2 different things. One, I'm working on a social media platform that I want to make for us to communicate to one another. We're looking to build our own social media platform. The other thing is, anytime you have a topic or a subject or something you want us to talk about, just send a support ticket in, and we'll read your questions. We'll do all that kind of stuff. We'll read questions and answer them. I do that on my coaching calls. They send questions in, and we answer the questions right on the call. We do that at the live meetup. People come in and ask questions all the time. And so why not do that on the podcast? If you have questions, just send it in on a support ticket, and we'll answer the questions. Okay? So with that said, thanks for being with us. Make sure you go do a review. Make sure you give us a testimonial, and we're over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.